request of many students, I am making this video on explanation of Hearts and Hand. It's written by O. Henry. This story is set on a train, that is the eastbound B&M Express, and the writer O. Henry, who writes under his pen name O. Henry, otherwise his name is William Sidney Potter. He is known for writing stories that have surprise endings. And this story is also not an exception. This story has a surprise ending that will be revealed later. So let's get started. At Denver, there was an influx of passengers into the coaches on the eastbound B&M Express. So, at Denver is a place where the leading character of the story lived. That is, Mr. Easton lived at Denver. So at Denver, there was an influx. Influxes means arrival of large number of people. So large number of passengers arrived into the train, the eastbound B&M Express. In one coach, there sat a very pretty young woman dressed in elegant taste and surrounded by all the luxuries and comforts of an experienced traveler. So in the second line of this story, we are introduced to a pretty young woman. Later we'll come to know that her name is Miss Fairchild, and she is very elegantly dressed and is surrounded by all the comforts. So she seems to be an experienced traveler. So how do we come to know that she is an experienced traveler? Because she's surrounded by all the luxurious comforts. See, when you travel a lot, you know what all is required while you travel. So all the comforts that are required. So an experienced traveler will carry everything with him or her while he's traveling, because he knows that what is required and what is essential for him while he's traveling. So same case is with this lady. So we are told that she is very pretty, young woman. One thing, pretty, young, dressed in elegant taste. Another thing, and she's surrounded by comforts of an experienced traveler. So what do you know about Miss Fairchild? That she is pretty, she is young, she is elegantly dressed, and she is an experienced traveler. Among the newcomers, so newcomers here are that who have just recently entered into the train. There were two young men, one of handsome presence with bold, frank countenance. Countenance means facial expression, face and manner, and other ruffled, glum-faced person, heavily built and roughly dressed. So two young men entered the train. One was handsome, bold, with frank facial expression. See, and the other one was in contrast to this handsome man. What do you know about two young men? One out of them, who is Mr. Easton. He is handsome, bold, and had frank facial expressions. Whereas the other man is ruffled. Ruffled means upset looking face. Glum-faced, again ruffled and glum-faced, means the expression, from the expression of the face of the man, we could sense that he was upset. He seemed to have an upset facial expression. Ruffled, glum-faced person, heavily built and roughly dressed. So what do you know about the glum-faced man? That he was ruffled, heavily built and roughly dressed. The two were handcuffed together. So two newcomers, two young men who had entered the train, were handcuffed together. They were chained around their hands. Two of them were handcuffed. So in the first paragraph, we are told about the setting of the story, and we are introduced to the three main characters of the story. So the story is set in a train, the eastbound B&M Express, and we are introduced to a very pretty young woman who is elegantly dressed and surrounded by all the comforts of an experienced traveler. Then we are introduced to two newcomers who are two young men. One is handsome, with bold and frank facial expression. Other ruffled. Ruffled means whose hair are roughly arranged, unmanaged. Glum face, that means upset looking face. Heavily built, had a heavy body and roughly dressed. So, this is what we know about the two young men who have entered the train. And both of them, what is common in them? That both of them are handcuffed together. As they pass down the SLS means the passage between the two seats, two section of seats in a train. So that is called aisle. Of the coach, the only vacant seat offered was a reserved one facing the attractive young woman. So the only seat that was vacant for two of them to sit was opposite to the attractive young woman. Here the linked couple seated themselves. So the linked couple, they sat in front of the young looking woman, attractive young woman. The young woman's glance fell upon them with a distant, swift disinterest. So initially, how did the young woman react on looking at the linked couple? So what is the linked couple? Who's the linked couple? The linked couple is the glum-faced man and Mr. Easton. Why are they called linked couple? Because they are handcuffed together. Both of them are linked by handcuffs. So this linked couple seated themselves exactly in front of the young woman, that is Miss Fairchild. And young woman's glance fell upon the two, and initially she showed quite disinterest. She didn't seem to be very interested in looking at them and knowing them. But then in a very short period, after a short while, then with a lovely smile brightening her countenance again means facial expression. So initially she showed disinterest, but in a second she had a lovely smile and her face brightened, and a tender pink tinging around her rounded cheeks. She held out the little grey gloved hand. So first she showed disinterest, and then she had a lovely smile and her face grew brighter with the pink color on her rounded cheeks, and she held out her hand with the grey gloved hand. So if you might have seen in movies also, usually the women, the foreigners, the women, they wore gloves in their hand, and this lady also was no exception in that. She was elegantly dressed, we were told earlier. So she was wearing grey gloves in the hands, and she held out her grey gloved hand to shake hand with Mr. Easton. When she spoke, her voice, full, sweet, and deliberate, proclaimed that its owner was accustomed to speak and heard. So, what else do we know about this lady now? That her voice was very sweet, as if she thought before she spoke. So, it was deliberate. That means that she thought before whatever she was speaking. She had a prior thought, as if everything was planned, and declared. From the voice we could come to know, proclaimed means declared. From the voice of the lady we come to know that she was used to speaking. She was accustomed to speak, and people also heard her speaking. So she had a very sweet voice that was full and deliberate. So what do you know about her voice? What kind of voice this lady had, Miss Fairchild had? So you know that she had full, sweet and deliberate voice. If you are asked a question, you could even be asked a 3 marks question on this, that what do you know about the voice of the lady? So she had full, sweet and deliberate voice, as if she was accustomed to be heard, or she was accustomed to speak. Well, Mr. Easton, if you will make me speak first, I suppose I must. Don't you ever recognize old friends when you meet them in the West? So, she's asking Mr. Easton now that she's an old friend of Mr. Easton. And Mr. Easton is the handsome looking man. So she's asking him that don't you recognize your friends when you meet them in West? So Denver is situated in western part of the country, and that is why it's called the West. Otherwise, both of them, uh, earlier they lived in Washington, Mr. Easton and Miss Fairchild. So he's saying that now you have met me in West, so don't you recognize your friends when you meet them in West? The younger man roused himself sharply at the sound of her voice, seemed to struggle with slight embarrassment, which he threw off instantly. So, the younger man, that is Mr. Easton, he got excited on hearing the voice of Miss Fairchild, and but he had a feeling of embarrassment, awkwardness, because he was handcuffed. So he was little embarrassed on being handcuffed, but he came out of his embarrassment soon, and he clasped his fingers with his left hand. Clasp means he held tightly the fingers of Miss Fairchild with his left hand. Why did he held her fingers with his left hand? Usually you shake hand with your right hand only, no? So why did he clasped her fingers with left hand when she had taken out her hand, held out her hand to shake hand with Mr. Easton? Why did he shake hand with his left hand? Because his right hand was engaged. It was handcuffed. It's Miss Fairchild, he said with a smile. I'll ask you to excuse the other hand. It's otherwise engaged just at present. So he's saying that excuse me because I'm not shaking hand with you with my right hand as it is engaged. So why is his hand engaged? Because it's being, the hand is handcuffed. He slightly raised his right hand, bound at the wrist by the shining bracelet. So what is the shining bracelet? Shining bracelet here is the handcuffs. So his right hand was bound with the left hand of his companion, that is the glum-faced man, with the handcuffs. The glad look in the girl's eyes slowly changed to bewildered horror. So, how did the girl react on seeing that the young man was handcuffed? Earlier, she was very happy on seeing that Mr. Easton is sitting in front of her. She was very happy to see his old friend. But when she saw that he's handcuffed, so her, glad look in her eyes changed to puzzled horror. She was horrified. She was filled with terror on seeing that Mr. Easton is handcuffed. The glow faded from her cheeks. So the pink cheeks turned out to be pale. So glow had faded. The pink color on her cheek has faded now. Her lips parted in vague, relaxing distress. So her lips also parted in relaxing distress, means in feeling of worry. She was worried that why is Mr. Easton handcuffed? So that is why her lips also parted. Easton, so if you're asked a question that describe how Miss Fairchild reacted on seeing that Mr. Easton was handcuffed. So you will write that glad look in her eyes faded and changed into a glad look in girl's eyes changed to bewildered horror. The glow from her cheeks faded and her lips parted in vague, relaxing distress. So this is a 3 marks question that could be asked. Easton, with a little laugh, as if amused, was about to speak again when the other forestalled him. So Mr. Easton was about to speak something, but the other, that is the glum-faced man, stopped him from speaking. The glum-faced man had been watching the girl's countenance. So he was watching the girl's countenance, means the girl's facial expression. He was also noticing, he might be noticing how her facial expression has changed on looking at the handcuffs of Mr. Easton, with veiled glances from the keen, shrewd eyes. So he was very carefully observing the veiled glances. That means the glances of the girl that had changed now. Earlier, she was very happy. She seemed to be very glad on seeing Mr. Easton, but when she saw him handcuffed, her facial expression changed. So the glum faced man noticed that, and he didn't let Mr. Easton speak anything. Instead, he spoke. So, what did he say? "You'll excuse me for speaking, miss, but I see you are acquainted with the marshal here." So he says that he asks her to excuse him for speaking, but he says that you're looking at the marshal here. So he is telling that Mr. Easton is the marshal. "If you'll ask him to speak a word for me when we get to the pen," pen means prison, "he'll do it, and it will make things easier for me there." So he tells her that he is the prisoner. The glum faced man is the prisoner, and Mr. Easton is the marshal. That is what he tells Miss Fairchild. He says that if you'll ask to speak, if you'll ask him to tell you something about me, then he says that the things will get better when I'll be taken to the prison. So he says that he also reveals that he is taking me to Leavenworth prison. So he tells that he is the prisoner, he is the criminal, and that is why Mr. Easton has handcuffed him with his hand, and he is taking him to Leavenworth prison. It's 7 years of counterfeiting. Counterfeiting means when you deceive somebody, when you cheat somebody. So it's 7 years that he had been cheating. That is why he's been sent to prison, and he's been caught, and the marshal, that is Mr. Easton, is taking him to the Leavenworth prison. "Oh," said the girl with a deep breath and returning color. So when she heard that nothing is wrong, this Mr. Easton is actually a marshal, so the color returned, the pink color on her cheek returned. "So that's why you are what you are doing here, a marshal." So she seems to be happy now on coming to know that Mr. Easton is a marshal. "My dear Miss Fairchild," said Easton calmly, "I had to do something. Money has a way of taking wings unto itself, and you know, it takes money to keep step with our crowd in Washington." So he says that he had to do something. So that is why he's doing a job of marshal. He says that money has way of taking wings onto oneself. He says that money has the tendency to multiply. It means money is you need lots of money to survive. So money is lost in you have so many expenditure, you have so much expenditure, that little money will not help you. So you need to do something to earn money. So he says that, and it takes money to keep step. It says it takes money, you need money to compete with the crowd in Washington. So he says that you have to compete for getting more money so as to compete with the crowd in Washington. It's not easy to survive without money. So that is why he's doing a job of marshal. That is what he actually means. "I saw this opening in the West." He says that he got this opportunity in the West, that is Denver. And well, a marshalship isn't quite as high a position as that of an ambassador. So he says, but though I am doing this job of marshal, but he says that this job is not high position as that of a ambassador. He says the ambassadors, the position of a ambassador is higher than that of a marshal. So he seems to be not happy on being a marshal. And Miss Fairchild interrupts in between. She says, "The ambassador," said the girl warmly, "doesn't call anymore." So he says that she's no more interested in anybody who's a marshal. he needn't ever have done so. He says you need not be a ambassador. You ought to know that. He says you should know that I'm not interested in marshals, and you needn't have done a job of ambassador. Sorry, she says that I'm not interested in ambassadors, and it's good that you're not doing job of ambassador, and you should know that I am not interested in ambassadors. And so now you are one of the dashing western heroes, and you ride and shoot and go into all kinds of dangers. So she's saying that since she knows now that Mr. Easton is a marshal, so she's happy. She says that you are one of the dashing western heroes who ride and who shoot, who run after the criminals, and they get into all kind of dangers. So she has picturized Mr. Easton as a marshal who are very dashing and who are very heroic, and who ride and shoot and get into all kind of dangers. That's different from the Washington life. You have been missed from the old crowd. He says that your life here as a marshal at Denver is different from the life that they had in Washington. He says, but you are missed out from the old crowd, means the old friends of Easton miss Mr. Easton. And that is what she means when she says that you are missed out from the old crowd. Miss Fairchild also shows her interest in Mr. Easton when she says so. She says that he's been missed out from the old crowd. The girl's eyes, fascinated, went back, widening a little to rest upon the glittering handcuffs. So again, eyes of Miss Fairchild went on the shining handcuffs, and they widened a little. On seeing that, Mr. Easton said, don't you worry about them. This is what glum-faced man said. So he is protecting Mr. Easton. Earlier, when he saw that facial expression of Miss Fairchild had changed on looking at the handcuffs, he told Miss Fairchild that he is a marshal and I am a criminal, and I am being taken to Leavenworth prison because of 7-year counterfeiting. Again, when he saw that she's staring at handcuffs, he said that you shouldn't worry about them. All marshals handcuff themselves to the prisoner to keep them from getting away. Mr. Easton knows his business. He says that Mr. Easton is just doing his business. He's just doing his job. All the marshals do that. They handcuff to their prisoners so that the prisoners do not run away. So that is what Mr. Easton is doing. Will we see you again soon in Washington? Asked the girl. So now Miss Fairchild is talking to Mr. Easton, and she's asking him that will we meet again in Washington? This again shows her interest in Mr. Easton. So she wants to meet him again. Not soon, I think, said Mr. Easton. My butterfly days are over, I fear. So he says that not now, not very soon. I'm not going to meet you very soon since my butterfly days are over. So what Miss Fairchild could conclude from these lines is that he is bound by his duty and he's not free. That is what my butterfly days are over means, that he is not free. Happy days of freedom are over now. I love the West, said the girl irrelevantly. So she casually said that she loves the West. That is where Mr. Easton is doing a job of marshal. It's thought of doing a job of marshal. Her eyes were shining softly. She looked away out of the car window. She began to speak truly and simply without the gloss of style and manner. So earlier we are told that whatever she spoke, she had a style and she had a specified manner when she talked. But now it's different. She was just talking casually. She said, Mama and I spent the summer in Denver. She went home a week ago because father was slightly ill. So her mother and she was had come to spend summer in Denver. But her mother had left a week ago because her father was ill. I could live and be happy in the West. I think the air here agrees with me. Money isn't everything, but people always misunderstand things and remain stupid. So again, she shows her interest in Mr. Easton when she says that she would love to live in the West. So she is planning to settle down in West, probably with Mr. Easton. Says that the air here agrees with me, that she feels comfortable staying in the West at Denver. She says that money isn't everything. She might be working or earning money at Washington, but she says that she would love to live in West. She would leave the job, whatever she's doing to earn money in Washington, she would leave that, because she says that money is not everything. People misunderstand things and remain stupid. She's just saying that people, they run after money and they remain stupid. She is not like them. She would happily live in West, and she would as she loved the West. Say, Mr. Marshall, growled the glum-faced man. Growled means he's complaining angrily. This isn't quite fair. I'm needing a drink and haven't had a smoke all day. Haven't you talked long enough? Take me in the smoker now, won't you? I'm half dead for a pipe. So now the marshal says he's complaining to, this glum faced man is complaining to the marshal, Mr. Easton, that he needs to smoke. So he had not even had a drink since morning. So in these foreign countries, the criminals also have certain rights, and the marshals have to fulfill that. So he's asking to go for smoke, and in the trains there are special cabinets that are made for smokers. No, you can't smoke openly. There's a specified place where people go and smoke. So he says that I want to smoke, so take me to the smoker, because if he doesn't smoke, he seems to be half dead without smoking. The bound travelers rose to their feet, Easton with the same slow smile on his face. So both of them, they got up and to move. Mr. Easton was having a smile on his face. I can't deny a petition for tobacco, he said lightly. So he couldn't deny. As per the rights of the prisoner of the criminals, Marshall couldn't deny a petition for tobacco. So he couldn't deny his request for smoking. So he had to go. It's the one friend of the unfortunate. Goodbye. Miss Fairchild, duty calls, you know. He held out his hand for a farewell. So he says that I am leaving because he is on duty and his duty is calling him and he has to go. So he bids Miss Fairchild farewell, and he leaves. It's too bad you are not going east, she said, reclothing herself with manner and style. So she was not happy that Mr. Easton is not going with him to Washington to the east. But you must go on to Leavenworth, I suppose. She says, but you are going to Leavenworth prison. She thinks that that is so. Yes, said Easton. I must go on to Leavenworth. The two men slided down the aisle into the smoker. So both of them, they walked into the smoker. Coming on to the next page. The two passengers in a seat nearby had heard most of the conversation. So while they were talking, two of the passengers were hearing the conversation between them. Said one of them, that Marshall's a good sort of chap. Some of these Western fellows are all right. So he says that the Marshall is a good chap, good young man, and some of the Western fellows are all right. They are good. Pretty young to hold an office like that, isn't he? Asked the other. So the other passenger said that he's too young to be a marshal. He's very young to be a marshal. Young? Exclaimed the first speaker. Why? Oh, didn't you catch on? Didn't you catch on means didn't you understand? Say, did you ever know an officer to handcuff a prisoner to his right hand? He says, have you ever seen a prisoner handcuff a, have you ever seen an officer handcuff a prisoner to his right hand? So this is how the ending is revealed. So it's revealed that Mr. Easton is actually the criminal and the glum-faced man is a marshal. How is it revealed? It's revealed by the two passengers who had heard the conversation between the three of them, and one of them had noticed that the Mr. Easton was too young to hold an office of marshal, and the marshal will always handcuff the prisoner, the left hand of the prisoner, with his right hand. He will always handcuff the prisoner from his right hand. So the right hand of prisoner of the criminal and left hand of the marshal are engaged. So a marshal will always leave free his right hand. So right hand will never be handcuffed of a marshal, whereas the prisoner is handcuffed with the right hand. So in this case, since Mr. Easton was handcuffed in his right hand, so he was the criminal and not a marshal. So that is how the ending is revealed to the audience, to the readers.